Are studying some of that, and Pew did a study, Pew Internet and American Life, a couple of years ago, showing that kids use text messaging to do some of the difficult things in terms of communication that you don't want to do face-to-face. So if you want to ask somebody out, you do it with instant messaging. You don't want to go out with them anymore, you do it with instant messaging. That's pretty tacky, I think. But I actually asked students recently, do any of you use it for these purposes? And a few hands went up, and then one student came up to me afterward and she said, gee, Professor, do you think we're going to be all right? Which I thought was really interesting, because they're worried, I think, about what all this means. Obviously, the blurring of the public and the private, and then there's some interesting gender differences, for example, that we're learning that girls tend to use social networks to enhance their pre-existing relationships, although they will add friends, whereas boys want to use them to flirt and develop new relationships. Parents and family, I'll be real quick on this one, although I think this is a critical issue for people. There are few studies about parental concerns about social networks. One found that 1 in 3 parents thought that the time teens spent on MySpace took away time from family rituals, such as meals. As my mother would say, I could have told you that. You didn't need a $500,000 grant. That's one of the third lines. But then other researchers have argued that social networks are really in many ways the only public space. And if you think of them as a public space, as the new kind of civic space, as one researcher says, the only public space where teens can hang out in an otherwise highly structured and regulated family, educational, and social environment. And I think that's kind of interesting, that this is sort of their new street corner, in a way, in our modern day. Quickly, just the issue of stranger danger, and I'm just using the alliterative phrase that the Brits use. There are concerns about encountering strangers online. Not a whole lot of research about this to support widespread concern. Although some conflicting research between U.S. studies and European studies, for example. The industry is very interested in reducing the risks associated with social networks and strangers, and MySpace, after the News Corp audit, hired a safety czar. More recently, the Harvard Berkman Center has formed an internet safety task force with industry, so obviously it's a great concern. And there's a lot of press, obviously, around